what is happening in Mombasa, at Lamu, especially the latest incident. That tells you that somebody somewhere is not doing what the government wants him or her to do. For example, if you look at that incident at Kiunga, I mean, we don't get any reasons as to why our whole OCS should pull out the policemen from a police post and leave members of the public vulnerable, and then such a thing happens. Now, indeed, if he or she had information that there could be such a type of invasion from Al-Shabaab, I think he was supposed to pass on the information to the relevant authorities. He's given backup. And then from there, we deal with these guys. But now, when you have a situation where these guys can come to a police post and be able to remove the Kenyan flag and put on the Al-Shabaab flag, that tells you that we have not actually understood what operation plans we are supposed to put in place as far as terrorism is concerned. We keep on trying to address these issues short term, then at the end of the day we are overtaken by events. And this leaves us in a very awkward position as analysts. We say somebody somewhere is not doing his job.
Post-Garissa attack, post-El Adde attack, what are some of the fundamental things you think the government should have put in place to avoid such attacks, not just on the soldiers in the camps and attacks in various institutions, but even in places as densely populated as towns?
I think the government has put in place very good mechanisms where we've seen the issue of the CCTV cameras, we've seen the issue of vehicles and all these things that we're being shown. But now where the rubber meets the road is making it operational, making sure that what you have is able to match with what is on the ground. And that's now where we had the problem. For example, the risks in Nairobi area or the risks in Kakamega are not the risks that are in Garissa. So that means the police commander or whoever is in charge of security in Garissa should sit down and come up with serious operational plans that could be able to match or counter any attack by these guys. Otherwise, if we are going to continue with the same operational plans without learning from every terror incident, then I can tell you we shall keep on getting surprises from these guys every now and then. And that will be very bad for us because it's the duty of the police, it's the duty of the security agencies to protect civilians.
So then what you're saying, in essence, is that these counties, especially the ones in the borders, like Garissa and Lamu, as we are seeing, need to rethink their security strategies.
Exactly. They need to actually think outside the box because what they are trying to put in place, that's why they are being overtaken by events. And I've given you a very good example what has happened in Ishakani, down there at the coast. How could a police commander withdraw the guards or withdraw security officers? Even if he knew things were bad, then that means that time we need to see the serious force. We need to see serious police colors. We need to see serious GSU guys getting into action. Very good example is now, like what happened, the buses being attacked, the route between Malindi and Lamu. You know very well that the buses are normally escorted. Now, what are the numbers that you are trying to put in place? These guys are very good in intelligence gathering. They will try to make sure that they would number you. They will try to make sure that what they do, they outdo what you are doing. So if police are not able to read these guys ahead of them, then what's going to happen is that they will be surprised. And that's why you see like what happened in between Malindi and Lamu. These guys were able to attack a police convoy, attack the buses, and to make things worse, they were able to burn. Daytime at 10. This tells you that the plans the security officers had in place were overtaken by the plans of the terror guys, or let me say Al-Shabaab. And this tells you somebody somewhere is not putting in place a good operational plan that is able to counter what these guys are planning.
Do you think they're moving too fast, that we are constantly looking like we're catching up with, with terrorists?
Yes, they are moving fast. You remember the last 2 years they were concentrating in Nairobi, they were concentrating in Mombasa, but now these guys have now moved to northeastern province. So let me say Garissa, let me say Tana River, and what is supposed to happen is that now the risk in those areas goes high. So if the risk goes high, that tells you that the security commanders in those areas must think outside the box. There's no question about it. And if they don't think outside the box, they will be overtaken by events. And that's what we are seeing on the ground. Yeah? Like, for example, now we had the issues of the vehicles, the IEDs being put on the road, and then the vehicles being blown off. Now, the issue is the roads that they were using. If Al-Shabaab can be able to know the routes the police are using and place IEDs on those roads, and then they're able to blow up the vehicles, and then at the end of the day, we are losing officers. Why should we lose officers who we've trained simply because somebody is not going to put in place a good operational plan? In security, it's just a question of looking at the risk, coming up with a plan, and you make sure your plan actually will be able to match what your enemy is able to plan against you. And once the enemy plans and you're able to come up with a security plan and that plan is not working, then that means your plan is useless. And that's what you are seeing on the ground. Something needs to be done in Garissa. Something needs to be done in Tana River. Something needs to be done in Lamu. The risk is very high, and we need to see these guys on the ground. Let's have the highly trained guys, the REG guys from the REG squad, fly there. Let's have the guys who are properly trained in operational issues, guys from GSU. Let them go there on the ground. But when you take the normal guys from the police college who have been trained on the normal issues of dealing with the normal crime, what have you, these guys have not been trained on serious issues of terror. And I can tell you, we should be overtaken by events. And that's why I feel so painful when I see police officers dying, in something that could be avoided. Somebody could blame the IG. The IG is not to blame. Somebody is on the ground. There's that police officer who is on the ground, the police commander on the ground. He or she is not thinking outside the box. And these are the guys we need to blame. You can't blame the IG for what is happening in Mandera. You can't blame the IG for what is happening in Lamu. You can't blame the IG for what's happening in...
But who does the buck stop with? Because even here, if I do not perform, my boss will be asked why.
Operationally. Operationally, you can't... No. Yeah. That's wrong. Let's try to put things into perspective. The IG is not on the ground. You are the guy on the ground. You are the guy who's supposed to plan what you think is right for the police. So when you do a wrong plan and then police officers are killed, then you want to blame the IG. It's wrong.
But then the question is, why keep them there if you've already established that they are not working as per the expectations?
And then that's now where the buck stops with them. They need to come up with serious plans that will help this country as far as where they are working. But the issue of sitting in an office and then you come up with a plan that does not work, then you are risking the lives of police officers. You are risking the lives of civilians. Remember, the police were supposed to protect civilians. Look at now what has happened at Lamu. These guys left. These guys came over. They took over the police post. They even put on the flag. They were able to have a chat with civilians, telling them, so long as you are not against our religion, we have no problem. I mean, this is wrong.
But there have also been reports of police officers who have been sent in such far-flung areas like Lamu, not being very motivated because of even the kind of conditions they're working under as police officers in these particular areas.
Now, that goes back to, I can't speak for police, that goes back now to, again, operational planning. Remember last time when we were here, we were discussing about elections.
Yes.
And I was telling you that officers were taken from Nairobi, they were taken to other places without proper preparation. The issue is planning. In security, if you don't plan, I can tell you, Akiza, you'll be overtaken by events.
So at the bare minimum, what do we need to have in place, not just for these specific areas, but the entire country, at the bare minimum, to ensure that we are secure?
The first thing we need to do is that corporate organizations have their security in place. Security managers need to make sure that they've got what we call minimum security requirements. When I got into this facility, I was screened to find out whether I had been given an appointment to come over. So at the corporate level, it is not the work of the police to come and make sure that you as an organization, your security has minimum requirements. It's your duty as a Kenyan to make sure that you put in place minimum security requirements. You know who is coming in your organization, who is leaving your organizations, and at every given time, Al-Shabaab or any terrorist does not make your organization an easy target. That's now a public, or let me say a member of the public responsibility. But now when it comes now to police responsibility, there are things that we need to put in place. Now, looking at what has happened in Kiunga, what has happened I think we need to make sure that the army takes their role. Let them make sure that they go and prevent these guys from coming in, because that is their work. And then the police officers who are on the ground have to make sure that at the end of the day, they come up with good operational plans that match what is required and then they are able to give the officers who are on the ground enough materials to be able to work. Because again, if you take a police officer with a G3 and you don't give him food, you don't give him accommodation, you don't give him what is required to make him effective on the ground, what's going to happen that he will be overtaken by events. If somebody stays 3 days without eating, then that becomes a problem. So that rolled down again to operational plan. If you look at an operational plan, it actually specifies how many manpower do you require. For example, at a high-risk area, how many people do you require? How many motor vehicles do you require? Do you require a chopper? Then ask the IG to give you the chopper. What do you require mathematically to be able to deal with the enemy? So these are things that guys on the ground should be able to ask for. They make the requests, and then from there, operationally, they'll be able to counter these guys. But remember, these guys have their own intelligent mechanisms. They were able to know the OCS and his team had left that police post. How do they know? Because they have very good security intelligence to get to know what's happening. And that's where the rubber meets the road as far as we are concerned. These guys have got very good intelligence. They were able to know. And that's why Garissa University, we've got over 70 universities. They only picked one university. Why? They knew that could be a very good target for them. We've so many malls in Nairobi, but they only picked Westgate. Why? They knew that is a mall that if they hit, within no time, they will have a lot of media publicity. They will be all over. And these are things that we need to make sure we counter as security experts.
All right, so I want us to take a quick break here on KTN News. Just coming back, we will be discussing on whether you think there's a disconnect between the intelligence that is given and the action or implementation towards that, and of course the state of our borders in the country. Let's take a quick break here on KTN News Desk. I'll be back with this conversation with security analyst Enoch Makanga. Don't go too far.
This is KTN News.